Dave Matthews concert at the Gorge for the weekend, and yet still finding his way to the public library in George, Washington to do his due diligence and watch both of these games in the comfort of some wooden chair amidst a crowd of strangers. Very well done. That is dedicated. Don't tell us now. I don't even want to know now. I want to know later. Okay, we're going to talk about this later. We're going to hear. Let's start, Colter, with look. The Montana State game was interesting. It was a fun game to watch. The atmosphere is just under 55,000 people there. The heat and a very good football team in Texas Tech. It went the way that we kind of thought that it would go, more or less 45-10. I thought that Montana State actually was really competitive in a lot of ways in this game, and then other ways that they were. You just clearly saw what it is to have a Big 12 Power 5 team against an FCS team. So that stuff showed up too. But it sort of went to script, although there was a couple moments where it looked like Montana State might kind of be around in this thing for a little while. So we'll get to that game, but I think it was less. I don't know how much there is to take out of that game. There are certainly some things, but Montana's game I thought was a like opponent. It was a Missouri Valley Big Sky challenge game. It was a game that Montana was actually favored in by 3 points, but you never know in the first game against what you think is going to be a good South Dakota team. And the Montana Grizzlies go in and win this game 31-17 over the Yotes of South Dakota, and a game, Colter, that after the first quarter was very low scoring. Not a lot going on in this football game early in it. In fact, no score whatsoever for either team in the first quarter. The defenses were dominant. Certainly Montana was not able to find a rhythm outside of the very first play of the game, which we'll hear from Coach Hauck on a little bit. Throwing deep, but the running game not there to be found. The offensive line did not look good in the first quarter. But also, it was all of the things that Bobby Hauck talked about leading up to this game. Look, we have no idea what Travis Johansson's defense is going to have in store. We have no idea how they're going to play us defensively. We're going to have to figure some of that stuff out. Certainly they did, and it was a prolific passing day for Dalton Sneed and for Samari Torre and for Sammy Akem. And so we'll get to all that stuff. But what was your number one just broad takeaway in this football game for Montana, a 31-17 win?
Well, I left the library in George, Washington, chuckling a little bit because I think that coaches have their ideal scores, right? And this is all just assumption, but it's just I always think to myself, what kind of game would Bobby Hauck most want to play? And I think a 31-17 win is Bobby Hauck's favorite score. I mean, he'd probably love to beat you even 31-0.
Right.
But I just can't tell you how many times the Grizz during Bobby Hauck's first tenure won 31-17, 35-17. Feel it out early, avalanche you in the middle, and then sit on you late. And that's what Montana did. I thought it took them 22 minutes to figure out the positionless defense that Travis Johansson likes to run at South Dakota, which, by the way, I think that that's a defense that could catch on trend-wise around college football in certain leagues, like maybe the Big 12. South Dakota is going to get killed in the Missouri Valley if they try to roll with that amount of undersized guys. Like if they were stacking the box against Montana, which I thought was a very interesting scout. And after the game, Bob Nielsen said we had to slow down this prolific running game, which I thought was also interesting because Montana did not run the ball very well last year at all. So I thought that was an interesting scout. I wonder if they were looking at tape of Coach Hauck's first tenure and looking at Lex Hilliard and Chase Reynolds running the ball. Because last year, we make no mistake, Montana actually averaged 150 rushing yards a game, which was totally superior effort to maybe what you'd expect given their talent at the offensive line and their talent at running back. But that said, that wouldn't have been my scout on Montana.
Well, and a lot of that was Dalton Sneed rushing the football, right?
No doubt. And so I thought it was interesting that South Dakota went all in. But I also thought that if they're going to play that positionless defense, it's almost like it's a flex where you put a lot more guys with speed on the field. And I get what they're going for, and it is a way to mitigate the RPOs that are so prevalent, the run-pass option stuff that's so prevalent in college football today. But if they were to run the same personnel and the same packages against North Dakota State, they're going to give up 400 yards rushing in that game in the Missouri Valley. Regardless, though, I thought that once Dalton Sneed got locked in, once Tim Rosenbaugh sort of handed the reins to Dalton Sneed to make the checks at the line, he was basically just doing a box count. And when he saw the numbers he liked in the box, just check to a quick slant to Samari Torre or Sammy Akem and get the ball out, or check to a quick out to Jerry Lou McGee. But I thought Dalton Sneed himself looked incredibly sharp, and I thought once Montana turn the key and sort of solve the code, you're off and running.
Yeah.
And then there was a middle part of that game where Montana's offense was absolutely unstoppable. They were just absolutely doing whatever they wanted. Last 8 minutes of the first half into about the first 10 minutes of the second half. And then they kind of switched it back around and just tried to – they wanted to just sit on the clock and just get out of there with a road win. But
if I've got this right, I believe Montana scored on five consecutive possessions.
Yep.
And the only one of those that wasn't a touchdown was because it was the field goal at the end of the half, which was, a nice kick, 43-yard field goal after a missed field goal early, by the way. Brandon Purdy getting a field goal there at the end to cap a stellar first half. But, no scoring in the first quarter, no scoring in the fourth quarter, 31-17 in the second and third quarters for Montana. Let's hear from Bobby Hauck. This is his just kind of opening remarks about the game and kind of what he thought coming out of it. This is from yesterday.
Well, we're excited to have won the opener, and that's all you can do is win any week that you're in and be 1-0 that week, which we were last week. So happy to go on the road and beat a really good football team at their place. It's not lost on us that the 16 previous home openers were won by the home team there, and obviously it's a tough place to open the season, and I'm proud of our guys for going and getting that win. So with that, we've got to get back to work this week and improve. We've got a whole bunch of things. There's a laundry list of things we need to fix that we didn't do well enough, and it's a big week for us in terms of improvement and trying to correct all the different things we need to fix.
Now, he says that any coach is also, is almost always going to say that coming out of week one, no matter what the score is or whatever. But to you, Colter, what were the things that you might note on a, quote, laundry list of things that Montana does need to improve and that you expect them to? Because I thought they looked, frankly, really good. I thought they looked really good overall against a good football team on the road. Again, it's a game that you and I both expected them to win, and they and win handily, and they did just that. But there's always going to be things, and what is one thing? Just one thing that stood out to you as hey, this is all well and good, great win, got to get better here.
From a team perspective, I thought that the elevated level of effort is so noticeable.
Yes.
They run to the ball, and it was an improvement right out the gates last year compared to the previous, I would even call it 6 years before that. But this year they are flying to the ball. And we'll see if it lasts. It's the first game out the gates, but I thought at all three levels of the defense, it was impressive watching guys run to the football. Guys that really popped to me. Alex Gubner, who's number 99, maybe somebody that Grizz fans are still getting acclimated with. He's a redshirt freshman. Call it D-tackle, D-end hybrid. He's kind of playing both spots. He really popped. I thought Jace Lewis looked tremendous in his aggressiveness and his sideline-to-sideline speed. And I thought Robbie Hauck is even more of a heat-seeking missile than he was a year ago. I watched this game live, but then I also rewatched it twice last night. And I just on fast forward, but I wanted to watch. I spent just about half an hour just watching Robbie Hauck. The level of effort that he plays with is unparalleled. He sprints to the ball every time, and you can see it with the whole defense, though. They all run to the ball. And it's such a simple principle in football, but it's something that Bobby Hauck has been so good at emphasizing for so long, and that is run to the ball and tackle well. And if you do that, you give yourself a chance because you don't have these momentum-swinging big plays that you're going to give up. Even though I thought South Dakota's quarterback, Austin Simmons, was really good. That was a good player. I thought the little receiver was a great player. I thought he had himself a day. And
Cannon Brooks.
Yeah, he was
lights out. Or excuse me, Cody Case.
Yeah, Cody Case.
Cody Case, 11 receptions, 144 yards, and the tip pass, ball that he turned around and caught, you can maybe chalk that up to, he stuck with it, but it's also good fortune or whatever. But he made some unbelievable skill catches in traffic on the sidelines where it was pretty good defense played. He was outstanding, and I really enjoyed watching him play.
So I thought that was the most noticeable part on defense. I also thought that individually, almost every guy that you would hope to get better got better, even guys that were elite.
But what do they got to get better at?
That brings me to my point. I think the offensive line is still a concern.
Yes.
I think the offensive line, I think they had a really hard time getting a push. You could definitely tell that the lineup has been shuffled a little bit. I'm not sure what's going on with Cordell Pelons, but he was listed as the opening game starter, but then he did not play. Tyler Ganong, who's a redshirt freshman, played right guard. Angel Villanueva back into the starting lineup at left guard. I thought he looked okay, but not necessarily dominant. And just the Grizz just coming off the ball in general, they were just okay. It was not maybe the level of intensity and the level of physicality that you would want out of a first game, because they showed that across the board other than the offensive line. So you don't really know if that was just a bad matchup. I will say this. I thought South Dakota was overwhelmed man for man at the linebacker spots and in the defensive secondary. Their secondary could not cover Montana. No chance.
Yeah.
But I did think their D-line was good. The Greenfield kid was as advertised. He's a first-team All-American, and he was a handful for Conlon Beaver and for Colton Kynes. He's a beast. I mean, if you're first-team All-League in the Missouri Valley, he's a second-team All-American 2 years in a row.
Yes.
You're one of the best DNs in the Missouri Valley. You're one of the best DNs in the country. So that's going to be one of the better tests that Montana's tackles are going to get. But I definitely thought that the run game was lacking. I thought that just the burst from the running backs and the push from the offensive line, it was all lacking. But I thought that Montana's coaching staff deserves so much credit for dissecting what South Dakota was doing defensively and then empowering Dalton Sneed. And when Sneed was the guy that was running the offense, Montana looked unstoppable. And I think that might be something that they need to fall back on a lot this year. But I just think if they can truly make no mistake, Coach Hauck wants to run the ball early, often, and with authority, period. It's his DNA. It's what he's always wanted to do. I just think you're going to have an almost impossible time finding an FCS team that's going to be able to match up with the weapons Montana can put on the perimeter. Mm-hmm. When you're running bootleg stuff and Dalton Sneed is rolling out and throwing on the run, and you've got Samari Torre and Sammy Akem running route concepts, it's unstoppable. There is no answer for it. There's no athletes that can guard those guys. So, I do think it's a good thing that you can fall back on if you're the Grizz.
The first offensive play of the game was a cause for great optimism for Montana fans as Dalton Sneed found Samari Torre deep down the middle. A great pass, a great catch on the very first play of the game. After, by the way, a defense that drove South Dakota straight to the aft. I mean, they were headed south as soon as they stepped onto the field offensively on their first possession. I thought the defense was great in this football game for Montana. But a question was posed to Coach Hauck about that first play. Hey, why are you taking a shot there? Is that something that you expect to do as you continue on through the season?
Well, again, that's a week-to-week thing. It's all game plan. And part of that was the fact that we didn't know how they were going to play us up front. So if you're going to try to feel things out, you might as well let it rip down the field and see what happens.
See, there's a little philosophy for you. We don't know what's going to happen. Hey, let's hand it off a couple of times, see what they do. Let's pitch it outside. No. Let's just drop back and just let it rip. You might as well just let it rip and see what happens. And it was a play that in itself came to nothing. It ended up being a defensive stop and then a missed field goal there off the bat. But it was a harbinger of things to come with Montana having, again, I think it was Dalton Sneed's best day through the air, 430 yards passing on 52 pass attempts. And those 52 attempts were noted, and that was another question that Bobby Hauck was asked. Throwing the ball 52 times, that's a lot. Is that something you expect to continue over the course of the season?
Yeah, those statistics are skewed a little bit because half of those throws, I don't know what the number is, half those throws are run-pass option, and they got thrown. So, 25 of those could have been runs just as well. It's all based on how the defense is playing us.
Okay, so half of those are RPO that turned out to be the P and not the R. I am with you, though. I think that, of course, it's how the defense plays you, but it's also what the defense is able to do. And if the defense is able to overwhelm or be winning in the main up front, then the RPO becomes P a lot more than it becomes R. Like, that's just the kind of way that it works. And to your point, Bob Nielsen, South Dakota head coach, said, we planned to stop the run. And by and large, they did. By the way, 98 total yards rushing in this game for the Grizzlies on 28 attempts. Dalton Sneed had the most rushing attempts, though, 10 for 25 yards. Jerry Louis McGee ran the ball once for 14, but other than that, between Marcus Knight and Adam Eastwood, who are the only two actual running backs to carry the football on a direct handoff, they had 14 rushes for 59 yards. That's not first of all, it's not a lot of attempts, especially between two guys. I mean, it's not a lot of carries. I thought that Marcus Knight was clearly the better of the two in terms of carrying the football. His vision, his cutback ability was good. He did have a touchdown reception in this game, which was nice. But in either case, running the football, and again, maybe you can give South Dakota some credit because if that's the game plan that they had, okay, that's well and good. But when it just started working down the field, and it worked early and often for Montana throughout the second and third quarters, you're just not going to run the ball all that much. So I still think the early returns are not great for the Montana run game, but also there's not a lot to look at so far because it was such a pass-heavy way in which the game developed as it wore on. And when you look at what they did do in the passing game, and by the way, I think the guy to me who stood out, and I mean, this is not stepping on any small limb here, but Samori Toure. Yeah. I mean, I think that everybody has come in with great expectations for Sammy Akem, for Jerry Louis McGee. You know, Ben Roberts has had
Mitch Roberts.
See, I started with the M and then I went to the B. Why do I do this? Mitch Roberts has had, a lot of talk and fanfare coming into this thing. Samori Toure is a guy who has played a lot for the Grizzlies and maybe had faded a little bit to the back and maybe as a third or a fourth option. He was outstanding in this football game all the way through. Found himself open a lot and caught a ton of passes in this football game, as many guys did. But a phenomenal job all the way around. Samori Toure, 9 receptions for 142 yards in the score. Sammy Akem, 9 receptions for 158 yards in the score. How you like this? Your top two guys. 18 catches, 300 yards, and 2 scores. Probably not the day to run it. Probably don't hand it off if that's going on down the field.
I think one of the biggest differences between pro-style offenses, NFL offenses, and by pro-style I mean the West Coast offense is always going to be one of the most dominant elements at the top level of football just because of the consistency you can produce with it. But there's been so many spread elements that have trickled into the NFL as well. And there's been so many run-pass option elements that have trickled into the pro game as well. But I think when you're talking about college-style quarterbacks, there's a reason that almost everybody, even coaches that have been doing this forever, that have old-school principles, are gravitating towards athletic guys who can run, who can make quick decisions on their feet. And I think that's why, I voted Eric Barriere from Eastern Washington as my preseason Big Sky Conference Player of the Year. I know Jake Mayer from UC Davis is the returning Big Sky Player of the Year. I think he's the most cerebral quarterback in the league. But I think that when Barriere had it rolling towards the end of last year with the RPO stuff that Eastern Washington does, it made him literally the most unstoppable weapon in the FCS, and they rode him all the way to the national championship game because it's so often it's a feel thing. A lot of times you do get the look where it's just going to be a pass all the way when you run that RPO. A lot of times you get the look where it's going to be a run all the way, and you can see it. But a lot of times it's a 50-50 where the quarterback can then take the ball and make the decision himself. And if he can read the short route on the whatever side he's reading, as well as the defender who's defending the run simultaneously, it's such a hard skill. It takes so much rhythm to be able to do it. But when you can absolutely shred people. And if you have a quarterback who can run, like Eric Berry, like Dalton Sneed, now if that guy is making the correct decision, you make it so the defense has no answer. There is nothing that they can do. I honestly thought that Dalton Sneed resoundingly announced his candidacy as a candidate for the Big Sky Conference Player of the Year this year. I really did. I thought he played that well. I thought he looked like an unstoppable weapon when he got in a rhythm and he got it rolling. I mean, when you run that RPO and he rolls to his right and he can just read Samori Toure on a skinny post and Sammy Akem on a deep post or whatever the route tree is, if he makes the throw, it's over. And I just thought it was such a revelation because Montana, Dalton Sneed was great last year, but I thought he looked at a whole different level this year. And so much of that is just his comfortability with the reads within the offense.
Totally agree. Look, if you throw the ball 52 times and you have 15 incompletions, I mean, It's a win. It's a win. It just is. Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. It's the Montana Football Hours presented by Lithia Ford of Missoula. A couple other things that I wanted to point out here, and this is in the special teams game, specifically the return game. The good, Malik Flowers. Malik Flowers was fantastic. 4 returns for 114 yards in this football game. 116 yards, 34 being the one. But, I mean, you average that out. I mean, you're talking about – I mean, if you're returning a kick out of the end zone, I mean, you can usually say 20 yards, right, is going to be an average. He's averaging 30 yards, even, per return. That's really good, and that's him and the blockers and everybody else. So I thought that was good, and I think there's a lot to like out of what Malik Flowers does returning the football. I thought the punt return game, though, with Jerry Louis McGee that's so vaunted and so exciting was underwhelming. He only had 1 return, and make no mistake, South Dakota was kicking the ball as far as they could away from Jerry Louis McGee. Didn't want to have anything to do with it. But he had one opportunity in particular, but even more than that, with some space. I mean, not merely to field the ball, but there were a number of fair catches called for that I felt that, I mean, he's so quick. He's so good. He gets the ball. Go. Let it rip. Let's see what happens. You can get out of all of these, lock and key Houdini situations, and maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. But I thought the 6-yard return he made was magical. Actually, the 1 return he had, you go, yes, give me more of that. You're like 1 break away from taking this thing to the house, and that didn't really happen. And I thought there were opportunities for that. Now I don't know if he's been, sort of tempered a little bit by the coaching staff. We know how much Bobby cares about special teams, but it's not just about the return game, obviously, and he's so valuable in the pass game too, and you don't want him to go out there and take needless hits that are for nothing or whatever. But I just thought there were some opportunities there for JLM that we're not taking advantage of.
That seems like a trend that's carried over from last year too, right?
Yes. I mean, Jerry Louis McGee's best year returning punts was 2 years ago under Bob Stitt as a sophomore.
Yep,
for sure. And that has waned, and I'm not sure why. I mean, let's be clear. He's on everybody's radar, okay?
Yep.
When he steps on the field and Washington Grizzly is chanting JLM, you don't need to be a genius to know maybe don't kick him the ball. But it still happens, and there's still opportunities, and I think especially when they're limited, every one that is even a potential one, you got to take a shot at that, it seems to me.
Yeah, totally. And I analyze the special teams quite a bit too, because I think that the special teams have, and this is not a shout at the special teams as much as a praise of the other elements of the Grizz. The Grizz have taken a big jump, in my estimation, in terms of things like Samori Toure going from a guy who was a star to a guy who was a little bit overshadowed a year ago to a guy who spent the offseason basically behind Mitch Roberts on the depth chart to then come and overtake him and get the start and have a huge day on that. That's Bobby Hauck's program in a nutshell, is challenge a guy and sort of use another player who's a hard worker in your position group to be a motivating factor. And then when the guy does live up to billing, then he gets rewarded for it. That's Bobby Hauck's program in a nutshell. But I also think that they've taken such a big jump. Their hustle defensively, their effort defensively, their tackling defensively, that is just night and day compared to what it was a couple years ago. The special teams hasn't taken as big of a jump, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, Brandon Purdy 2 years ago was lights out. He was a third-team All-Big Sky kicker. He made 16 field goals. And then last year, Timmy Spenza was good early and then not very good late. And so after beating out Purdy, who had a knee injury last spring, but Malik Flowers has been electric in the kick return game, but Jerry Louis McGee has not been the big play threat you'd hope he would be yet. I mean, I know it's brewing, and I know a lot of it does, like you're talking about, has factors in teams kicking away from him, but they haven't made as big of a huge jump as maybe you would have expected. That said, I was watching the personnel that they're playing on special teams. And some guys that stood out. I mean, they're having Garrett Graves cover kicks now, kicks and punts, which I think is great for him. It's a great fit to learn, just to get onto the field in that fashion while he still figures out where he's going to fit into the mix. The other thing I think is great is they have Robbie Hauck playing on every special teams. So when you have the confidence in the guy to play him I didn't really – I thought that Montana rotated way less prevalently than I thought they were going to on defense. And so when you're talking about Robbie Hauck, I did not see him come out of the game on defense. And then he's playing every special teams too. So that means, his endurance level must be just tremendous. But I do think that when you're playing some of your more talented guys on special teams now, on kick teams, it gives them the ability to make a jump. And so maybe that's the thing that comes next. But I think it's fascinating to analyze because by all accounts, Bobby Hauck and Jeff Choate are two of the best special teams coaches in the country. They both had high-level jobs as special teams coordinators for really revered head coaches. Bobby Hauck for Rocky Long at San Diego State, Jeff Choate for Chris Peterson, and Mike Leach at Washington State, Florida, all across the country. And neither one of the special teams has been as lights out as maybe you'd expect from a special teams coach who's a head coach.
Right.
I don't really know how to explain that. And I don't think it's a permanent situation. I do think that the Grizz have enough young talent where once those guys get the schemes down on special teams, they have a chance to make a real jump. But I thought it was interesting because I do agree with your point. They haven't been as electric as maybe you'd hope. But I also wonder this. I want to ask Coach Hauck this because I do think a lot of it is the amount that other teams game plan for you. So you wonder if teams are just doing weird stuff to Montana on special teams, things they're not expecting. And if that's the case, then you are winning on special teams because they're doing unorthodox and outside the box things to you to mitigate it. So you're winning the chess match, even if you're not winning the individual rep.
One other thing I want to point out, and then we'll take a break. We'll come back and we'll talk about Montana State. But one guy who I think played really well last year but didn't necessarily pop, mostly because of the way that he was used in the position that he plays, but I thought really popped to me on Saturday, was Jesse Sims. I thought Jesse Sims played a fantastic game on Saturday. I do not know the status of his injury. He went down, and as far as I'm aware, he did not return in that football game. And it was, clearly like a shoulder, pec, arm deal. And so I have no idea where we stand with that. But up to that point, he played an outstanding game. I think he had 4 tackles, 1 for loss. But his biggest play of the game did not show up at all when, South Dakota smartly curried up to the line on what was clearly an incomplete pass down to about the 3-yard line, ran a play just to get it off, but sat there on essentially the goal line. And Jesse Sims, he shook the offensive lineman there to guard him. It didn't even touch him and was 4 yards back in the backfield basically at the moment the ball was handed off and didn't make the tackle, but gave time for all the reinforcements to show up and stuff the run and held South Dakota to a field goal, which, by the way, was the first score of the game. If you remember, Montana, early, it was down 3-0. Well, could have been 7-0, and, it's a big difference, especially when it's that first score. And I thought he in that individual play was sort of a microcosm of what I thought was an outstanding day for number 37 for the University of Montana. And we will Bobby Hauck has made it very clear we don't talk about injuries, okay? So we will see what we're able to find out about his status, his health, and obviously he's a significant part of what they're doing defensively and just in general, and the legacy number and all of that. So we'll find out what we can. But I thought he played a fantastic game up to that point.
Certainly, and I thought it was definitely a spot where I got to eat some crow because I thought that his ideal position would be playing on the outside of the defensive line. And he's playing the true nose. And Bobby Hauck said that during fall camp. He said, we think that's a better spot. And I said on this show, I don't agree, but I should agree with Coach Hauck in that situation because he obviously knows a lot better than me. And I agree. I thought Jesse Sims looked great. The worrisome part about that injury, man, like there's certain individuals that just have such prodigious strength that if you get in a specific situation, to me, what I saw on that injury was very similar to a Bo Jackson-style injury where only Bo Jackson could suffer the hip injury that he suffered because only Bo Jackson is strong enough to run through a tackle like he did and shred his hip like he did. It's just like only Jesse Sims is strong enough to be getting knocked off his feet by 2 guys and throw his right arm out and be able to hinder the guy's progress and then have it rip back like that. I really hope it's just like a strained AC joint and not a torn pec because the way that fulcrum point looked, that is just so ripe for tearing. And if that's the case, that's just going to be so tragic for the kid because he worked harder than anybody to get ready for his 5th year as a Montana Grizzly. So we wish him the best. We don't, like you said, we're probably not going to find out the specifics of it, but to me, I don't know. It didn't look great to me.
We'll take a break. We'll come back. Montana State. They went down to Texas Tech. They lost 45-10. I thought there were some interesting things to take out of this game for the Bobcats. Casey Bauman getting his first ever start. Had a couple of highlight moments. But also, it is the Big 12, and there is a lot of particularly speed at play in that league, and it was on display as well for the Red Raiders, who got the win. We'll hear from Coach Choate and talk about that game next. Hey, it's the Montana Football Hour as always, and it is presented by Lithia Ford of Missoula. Today, people, is the last day to save. So hurry up and do it with Lithia Ford of Missoula. Save an estimated 20% off of the new 2019 Ford F-150s. Plus, earn complimentary maintenance through Ford Pass Rewards. The Ford F-150 features best-in-class capability for work or play. This makes tough tasks look easy, whether you're working on the job or heading out on a weekend of recreation. The good deals don't stop there either. You can come in. They save a 20% off the 2019 Ford Edge, Escape, or Exhibition. It's the Hurry Up and Save sales event with Lithia Ford of Missoula. These great deals are ending today at the close of business. You got to get over to Lithia Ford right now, this afternoon. 20% off all of those. Go check them out, Lithia Ford of Missoula. Alpine Touch has been part of the fabric of Montana for more than 60 years. Decades ago, Russell Street started selling his touch of magic in whitefish. Years later, Alpine Touch's all-purpose seasoning remains a favorite. It's tailgating season, and there's no better way to spice up your grill before a Grizz game than with Alpine Touch. Go to alpinetouch.com now and use the checkout code ESPN10 for a 10% discount on your order. Alpine Touch is here to keep your mouth watering all football season. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice.
Garden City Paint and Glass in Missoula is like your paint doctor. They take the pain out of painting. Don't trust your home to anything less than professional PPG paints from Garden City Paint and Glass. Go to visualizecolors.com. Scan in your room photo to see what color combinations will look best before painting. That's visualizecolors.com. Featuring professional PPG paints. Garden City Paint and Glass in Missoula. Across from the Southside McDonald's at 3217 Brooks.
Mark your calendar for the 4th annual Selway Armory tent sale. The lowest prices of the year on guns, ammunition, and accessories, and massive amounts of ammo to stock up for the entire year. September 13th and 14th in the Lolo Shopping Center parking lot on Highway 93. Tons of ammo, guns, and other items at below-cost blowout prices. September 13th and 14th, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Friday and 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Saturday. The 4th annual Selway Armory tent sale at the Lolo Shopping Center, Highway 93. Hey everybody, Ryan Tutel, and I'm here with Josh of the Advocates Injury Law Firm. Josh, there's a lot of lawyers in this area. What makes you different?
At the Advocates, we primarily focus on injury cases. That gives us the experience and the knowledge to correctly evaluate your case and work with insurance companies and other attorneys so you get exactly what you deserve to make you whole again. We take really good care of our clients, and we're going to fight for every single dollar you deserve.
Call 640-4444 or online at montanaadvocates.com. There are a lot of lawyers. You deserve an advocate.
Everybody knows that high school sports generate suspense, excitement, and drama.
They also generate higher grade point averages, stronger work habits, and greater self-esteem.
Everybody knows that high school sports give us more value for our entertainment dollar.
They also give us leaders committed to strengthening communities right here in Montana. The true value of playing sports in school can't be measured in wins and losses or dollars and cents. Studies show that participation in sports, along with other extracurricular activities, is one of the best ways to teach leadership, cooperation, accountability, and other invaluable life skills. Don't just stand on the sidelines. Encourage the young people you know to get in the game. When you do, you'll be helping them get ahead in life. High school sports, a winning part of a complete education. This message presented by the Montana High School Association and the Montana Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon. Brian Tutel, Colton Nuanez. Here's some sports news. Once the Montana Grizzlies solved South Dakota's unorthodox defense, the Grizz passing game diced the Yotes on Saturday. It took Montana nearly 22 minutes to score. The Dalton Sneed 16-yard touchdown pass to Samori Torrey opened the floodgates, leading to scores on 5 consecutive possessions as the Grizz open up the 2019 season with a 31-17 road win. Sneed threw for a career-high 430 yards and 3 touchdowns, adding another rushing touchdown. Torrey and Sammy Akem each got 9 passes and touchdown on a banner day for the UM offense. The Grizz open up their home schedule Saturday night in Missoula against North Alabama.
Montana State Bobcats had an impossible time hanging with Texas Tech's tempo in the temperate heat of Lubbock on Saturday. On an afternoon in which temperatures reached triple digits, Texas Tech ran 95 plays to the tune of 691 total yards, including 436 passing yards by quarterback Alan Bowman. The hosts notched 35 first downs to MSU's 8 first downs. MSU redshirt freshman Casey Bauman, making his first start, completed 7 of 19 passes for 120 yards, including a 31-yard touchdown to Coy Steele. MSU opens up its home schedule Saturday night in Bozeman against number 12, Southeast Missouri State.
And finally, the Missoula Osprey kept their playoff hopes alive with a 7-1 win over Idaho Falls to finish the series against Idaho Falls tonight.
This ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Aspen Sound.
It's the Montana Football Hour. And it's time to talk about Montana State. It is Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris Studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com. One thing before we get into this game that I quickly want to mention, we're going to be at the Iron Horse. Love it. Go down to the Iron Horse on Thursday. Should I tell the people too for once? Okay. But come on down, hang out with us, and put your name in the box to win tickets to the Grizzly-Oregon Duck football game. It's our second to last stop, our Tutel Nuanez Summer Tour at the Iron Horse downtown. So come hang out with us on Thursday. Going to be a lot of fun to be there. Additionally, though, we're giving away tickets to this week's Montana-North Alabama game. Under the lights, the home openers for the Grizzlies. We got a pair of tickets. We're giving them away tomorrow. And we're giving them away via Facebook. So you can go to our Tutel Nuanez or 1029ESPN.com Facebook page. And there is a picture up which you can caption. And so the best caption between now and the show tomorrow is winning a pair of tickets to the Grizz home opener on Saturday night against North Alabama. So go to the ESPN, 1029 ESPN Facebook page and check out the picture there. Reply in the comments with your best commentary, comment, quip, whatever it may be on the picture, and we will pick a winner tomorrow on the show. Okay, so I want to let you know we're here to it's football season. I could not be happier, by the way, that it's football season, and we're going to give tickets because the point of football is just being together, right? You ever been to a football game where you were like the only one there? That's not that fun. The point is that we're all there. That everybody's going. Bozeman, Missoula, we're doing it. Okay, so we're going to get you out to the games. We continue in the Montana Football Hour presented by Lithia Ford of Missoula and Coulter. It is time to talk about the Montana State game on Saturday. The Cats falling to Texas Tech. Not surprisingly, 45-10. I think that's a very well within the sort of range that you thought that this game might end up going, a play here or there, and this game could be very different. Montana State's best moment in this game was a sequence in which they caused a fumble and recovered it on what was initially a long pass reception for Texas Tech. This was in the second quarter. They turn around. They kind of get stopped short. Jeff Choate in his own territory, the fake punt, picks up the first down on a fake punt, and then an unbelievable throw and catch down the sideline from Bauman on his first really big reception of his career in terms of a big throw down the sideline. And then the touchdown to Coy Steele in his first touchdown as a Bobcat. Beautiful. I mean, down the seam, catches the thing, runs it in for 30 yards, cuts the lead to 14-7, and at that moment, a one-score game, and into the second quarter, kind of middle of the second quarter, and it's a football game at that point. You're like, okay, Montana State looking good, and that was an outstanding sort of sequence for Montana State. Then there was a lot of speed by Texas Tech that kind of took the game over. So they were outstanding that way. Let's quickly hear, before we talk about it, hear from Jeff Choate, who has never had a lack for thoughts, giving his opinions and his remarks just initially after he's watched the film about the game on Saturday.
Probably the one word that I would use to describe it is speed, not just the tempo at which they played, but there was a pretty significant difference between how fast they were at every position and how fast we were. There was a couple times you get it in the open field and we just kind of get swallowed up, and conversely, when they got on the open field, they kind of broke things open. They put up a ton of yards, and the things that we didn't really care about was the yards. We knew they were going to get their yards, but we gave up some explosive plays, particularly in the run game. That was a frustrating thing about it. Offensively, it's just we didn't take advantage of opportunities. We got ourselves in manageable situations on third down and even fourth down, and really couldn't handle their front seven. I thought 96, 53, and 51 are really, really good players for Texas Tech. But I do think there were some positive things to build on. We watched through the film yesterday as a team a little bit, and I think that Casey Bowman, the guys that maybe didn't see him hang in the pocket and take some of the shots that he did, maybe they didn't see that live, or they didn't even see it on film, and they got an opportunity to see that highlighted. I think they definitely gained a lot of respect for his toughness. I think quarterbacks oftentimes get this moniker as kind of the pretty boy or frat boy, and those guys are tough guys, and they're exposed, and he took some big-time shots by big-time players. Number one, coming downhill, green dogging on some pressures, and put him on his back. He hung in on the touchdown, hung in on the deep pass to Kevin, missed on the deep ball. That would have been a really significant play in the game to Troy Anderson. I think had we got that might have been a little bit different game, because I think that would have changed the mojo on their sideline quite a bit. But all in all, we got out of it really, really healthy. I think our kids know that they could have played better, and they also know that that's the best team by far that we've played since we've been here in terms of the athletic talent and the speed. And so we're on to Southeast Missouri State.
So there you go. Jeff Choate talking about the game, what he saw out of it. Interesting on particularly the Casey Bauman front. 7 of 19, not great. Obviously only 7 completions, but did throw for 120 yards. So the completions he made were big completions. He had one egregious incompletion to me on a third down play that you just got to have to keep the ball, just to keep the clock rolling and to have possession and on that. And it's a great play call, pretty short out route, and it just threw it into the ground. It was there for a first down, and you just have to make that pass, especially against a team, like Texas Tech, where you just in a moment where you got to have it, and a relatively simple throw, and the thing just nosedived. I don't know if it's 6'7", and it kind of gets on you. But he also made some really good throws and some big throws down the field. Kevin Cass's catch, as we talked about on the sideline, was phenomenal. And then, he hit Coy Steele in stride. A beautiful ball for the one score in this game, and one touchdown that they made. And so I thought, all in all, I thought he looked pretty good. He definitely took some knocks, which I think is a good thing by and large, provided that you stay healthy, and he did. Took some pretty big hits and did it that way. The interesting thing is 3 other guys had 5 pass attempts in this game, and they were all completed. Kevin Cassis, 1 for 1. Troy Anderson, 2 for 2. And Tucker Rovig, 2 for 2, albeit all for short yardage. 2 for 2 for 4 yards for Tucker Rovig. They're just kind of little dump-off things to get him in the game. But, Montana State overwhelmed by the size and speed, over 250 yards rushing for Texas Tech, 430 yards plus passing or receiving in this game for the Red Raiders as well. It's just the way that it's going to go. But, again, I thought I saw a lot of moments where Montana State players, were not being not even embarrassed, but that they were going 1 for 1, especially on the physicality front. You cannot hang with Texas Tech speed, period. No FCS team is going to be able to do it. But there were some guys out there that could bang away with the Big 12 toe-to-toe physically. And I thought that was the thing to me out of this game, if I'm taking it generally, that was most impressive to me about the Bobcats. So I thought that they were physically in this game with Texas Tech in a lot of ways.
There's a lot of mystery coming in this game with Texas Tech having a new coaching staff, but as we talked about last week, David Yost is the offensive coordinator. I think everybody assumed that it was going to be prevalent passing, just like Texas Tech has been known for. I think that the tempo that Texas Tech played at was even more of a surprise than maybe Montana State was ready for. Texas Tech's first possession was a 14-play possession that ended in a touchdown, and it only lasted 3 minutes and 20 seconds. It was just boom, 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 boom. When you let a team like Texas Tech that wants to play at that pace get into a rhythm, if you never break the chain, they're going to just kill you. They're going to steamroll you. And Montana State, I thought, it was kind of twofold. I thought that their young defensive backs, because Munchie Filer, their number one corner, was out for this game. Tyrell Thomas still get himself back into full health after struggling with injuries all year last year. So you had guys like Lavelle Price and Tyree Gibson, redshirt freshmen, getting their first career playing time, really. That's a tall task in itself. But then when it's just pass after pass after pass after pass, it's just so hard unless you make a play. I thought the coverage was actually good. Texas Tech was not necessarily catching the ball and just running to daylight. There was only one real big pass play, and that was the touchdown. So that was actually a run play, the long touchdown to end the first half after the fake punt. That was the kind of backbreaker.
Yeah.
That was the big swing, because if Montana State somehow figures out how to get a score there and makes it either 14-10 or 14-14 instead of giving the ball back, and then all of a sudden it's 21-7, then all of a sudden it's 28-7, that was where Texas Tech really got a cushion. But, I agree with you. I thought the defensive backs competed, but they couldn't hang.
No.
They just weren't athletic enough. I thought Montana State's D-line looked okay, pretty good. I mean, as advertised, I guess you'd say. And I thought that their offense showed flashes. Casey Bauman can throw the ball better than any quarterback they've had, period. He made throws that no one that they've had playing quarterback can make. That said, they have relied so much on the +1 quarterback in the run game for the last 3 years. It's going to be a learning curve for them to figure out how to replace that. Bauman is going to be able to run a little better against FCS teams than he is against Texas Tech. I mean, that's just hanging a kid out to dry. How many carries do you have? 10, 12?
10 carries for 13 yards, 1.3 yards per carry.
I mean, they didn't give up a sack, which is a plus. They won the turnover margin, which is a plus.
They did not turn the ball over once.
Nope.
I thought that was very impressive for Montana State.
I do too. But on the flip side, I just thought it was kind of foolish to run Casey Bauman that much.
I was surprised too. Not even whatever talk about how many yards he did or didn't pick up. The fact that Casey Bauman was their number 2 leading rusher in terms of attempts behind Isaiah Ifanse with 15 was surprising to me. I mean, and these were not RPOs that he decided.
No, they're running zone reads.
Designed runs for Casey Bauman. And look, even if you want to do that during the course of the season, and Jeff Choate said, hey, man, we don't have to give away our +1 run game because Bauman's in the game. Clearly he believes that. I was surprised that they ran him out there that much against this football team, really.
The number one thing that struck me about this game, though, is how many guys the Cats played and how little of their schemes that they ran. They played base defense almost exclusively, and they ran their base stuff on offense. They did not run anything crazy. Travis Johnson not being in this game, I think, hurt them a lot. Travis Johnson is, I think, unquestionably their best athlete other than Troy Anderson. Without Travis Johnson available, then I think you want to scale back and not wear out Troy Anderson either. So Troy Anderson did not play very many offensive snaps. So now you have the only 2 guys on your offensive side of the ball that can hang athletically with Texas Tech. They're not really part of the game plan. I expect Montana State to run a ton of different packages with multiple different quarterbacks. We didn't see that.
Right.
And I think that that's part of it, though. I think that they really didn't want to show a lot. I mean, I think that Jeff Choate looked at the tape, looked at the matchup. I mean, you never want to tuck your tail between your legs, but just purely from what Texas Tech emphasizes and the situation that Montana State was marching into, like you're playing a 3 p.m. game in Lubbock, Texas, where it's 103 degrees at kickoff, and you're thin at corner. That in itself, bam, you are a 35-point dog right there just from the matchup you have. So I really think that Coach Choate wanted to play everybody. He wanted to see what they had, and he definitely wanted to not show too much.
Well, I thought too, he even mentioned in that sound, there's an opportunity where there's a shot that was there to Troy Anderson that was a little bit of an overthrow. You complete that thing, and it might be to the house, and that changes the complexion of the game. And at that moment, you sit there and you go, okay, let's start getting into some football stuff to see if we can make some magic happen here on a Saturday afternoon in Texas. But that didn't happen. Like you said, you have the punt. All of a sudden, it turns into a touchdown going the other way. And at that point, you say, you know what? Let's get some kids an opportunity to say, I played in Lubbock, Texas. 11 guys ran the football. 11 dudes took a handoff and ran the football for Montana State. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of those got 1 rushing opportunity, and 2 more got 2 rushing opportunities. You know what that is? That's going, hey, guys, you're not going to play in the Big 12 or against Big 12 opponents very often. Come on out here, carry the ball, and get that experience of being out there and doing it. That's cool, and I applaud that. But you're right. Like at some point you go, especially in the flow of the game, you go, okay, it's 28-7 at halftime. We want to bow up. We want to play tough. We want to play strong. We want to get some guys some reps, and we want to be ready to go to Southeast Missouri State next week and have ourselves still covered, have ourselves prepared to be able to show some things that we haven't shown before.
They also got their 2 freshmen from Texas in the game. Tavarius Hosey, Jalen Smith both played. And that was just a product of, now you can play 4 games. Yeah. So why not let the Texas guys play? They probably had their parents there. Probably one of the only times their parents get a chance to see them play this year. So you get them in the game. So they took 65 guys at Texas, and I would bet that they played almost everyone, if not every single one of them.
Yeah, right. It is Tutel Nuanez. It is the Montana Football Hour presented by Lithia Ford, and we'll take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll keep talking about Montana State. I have some more sound for you from Jeff Choate talking about the opponent this week, a ranked opponent, and kind of what that does as you set up for now what is a very much a big-time game nationally, the FCS level this coming week. So we'll get into that a little bit as well. Hey, football is back, and the Silver Slipper is your football headquarters. That's right, the Silver Slipper down there, 4055 US 93, just as you're headed out of Missoula if you're headed towards Lolo, or as you're headed into Missoula if you're headed from Lolo. Okay, it's right there. The Silver Slipper has a free shuttle all the way from where they're at to every home Grizz football game. They got 56 TVs to watch sports on, drink specials every single day, a full liquor store, Tarantino's Pizzeria across the street from the Super Walmart on Brooks, okay, right there on Highway 93. Hit up the Silver Slipper, which is Missoula's favorite sports bar and casino. They got some great seating situations in there, a bunch of little spaces, nooks and crannies to hang out with your friends, games, great food. The pizza is, outstanding. It is a pizzeria after all, people. And you don't want to fight traffic. You don't want to deal with parking. You're coming up from the Bitterroot maybe for a Grizzly football game. Maybe you're on the South Hill in Missoula. Go down to the Silver Slipper, park your car, enjoy a drink or two, and then hop on the bus for free riding to and from the Grizz football games. It's a pretty slick deal they got at the Silver Slipper. Again, across from the Super Walmart on Brooks. Hit up the Silver Slipper, Missoula's favorite sports bar and casino. Back after this.
Hey folks, Ryan Tutel, and I'm here with Josh of The Advocates. Josh, do most injury accidents end up in court?
Luckily, most personal injury cases can be settled out of court through a fair negotiation with an insurance company. However, sometimes it is necessary. I'm prepared to do whatever it takes to get a fair settlement. Luckily, most personal injury cases can be settled out of court with a fair negotiation with the insurance company. However, I'm prepared to do whatever it takes to get the right settlement for you.
It's Josh at The Advocates, 640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com.
Hi there, it's Les Schwab Tires. You know, we've been helping keep folks safe on the road around here since 1952. That's why you can save up to $152 on a set of 4 select light truck and SUV tires during our fall tire sale. So swing by or book an appointment at leschwab.com. Les Schwab Tires, doing the right thing since 1952. Limited time offer while supplies last. Discount depends on tire size and type. Cannot be combined with other offers. Details at leschwab.com.
On Russell, across from the fairgrounds.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Fall is here, and with crisp mornings, there is no better way to start your day with a delicious drink from Florence Coffee. With flavors like indulgent white chocolate, decadent Madagascar vanilla, and rich dark chocolate, Flowco is sure to start your day off right wherever you're heading. We look forward to serving you and visit FlorenceCoffeeCo.com.
The best flavor under the big sky, Florence Coffee Company.
The biggest reason fall is the Desperados' favorite season of all, the return of those wonderfully spirited UM students, of course. Okay, so football is the real reason the Desperado gets pumped about fall, but you can't have college ball without college, right? So this season, the Desperado is bringing the best of both worlds together with live broadcast of Montana college football and all your favorite college football teams, along with Missoula's best hot wings and coldest beer. Fall has arrived, and there's more than one reason to celebrate at the Desperado Sports Tavern on South Russell across from the Y.
Kids are starting a new school year, and they have a lot to learn. But before they get to school, teach your children how to get to and from school safely on the school bus. Remind them to watch out for cars on the road as they leave the bus. Montana motorists share the responsibility to Montana's kids. Be aware this school year, you are sharing the road with our future. Watch the lights and obey the signals to help keep our community safe for kids. This school safety reminder was brought to you by the Montana School Bus Contractors Association and this station.
Tutel and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula.
They always say congratulations. Work so hard, forgot how to vacation. They ain't never had the dedication. People hate and say we changing, look, we made it.
What a great show, huh? The first Montana football hour that's actually happening during the football season. The guys in the back, hard at work. I can smell the smoke coming up from the room. They're making the internal workings of the radio work so hard. Gears are grinding. Beautiful. It's Tutel and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula. Highway 83 in Sealy. Online at KurtzPolaris.com. It is the Montana Football Hour. It is presented by Lithia Ford of Missoula. We are in it for yet another segment. And we are quickly going to hear from Jeff Choate because coming out of this football game for Montana State, again, a 45-10 loss to Texas Tech, they are headed to Southeast Missouri State, the number 12 team in the nation. And we're going to get, by the way, into the new Stats FCS rankings in the top of the next hour. But he was asked just simply about whether it's good to have a ranked FCS, or what is good, rather, about having a ranked FCS opponent opening up, in your non-conference play.
Yeah, I think it shows you where you are. You can say, hey, the measuring the things out of the Texas Tech game that I took away were, number one, we handled the environment. We were not sloppy. We didn't turn the ball over. We didn't have pre-snap penalties. Certainly we got out-executed at times and we were overmatched at times, but there wasn't a lack of effort and there wasn't a lack of focus. And so now it's about taking our execution to the next level, and we're going to have an opportunity to do that against a very good opponent.
We'll talk a lot about this game against Southeast Missouri State because this is one of the biggest games in the country at the FCS level here early in week 2 for the ranked Montana State team going to obviously a ranked Southeast Missouri State team. But what he pointed out there, hey, did we have many procedure penalties? No. Did we have many fumbles, turnovers, interceptions? None. And they were ready to go. They certainly did not wither in the moment, did not embarrass themselves, which is, we'll do an Around the Big Sky segment later in the show. There were a couple of teams that did exactly that. By the way, there's a couple of teams that played phenomenal from the Big Sky as well against quality Power 5 opponents as well. So this is a real gamut in the Big Sky this last weekend. But Montana State, did not shirk or shrink from the moment, weren't intimidated by the environment. They were outplayed by a more athletic, fast football team, period, end of story. But they were ready to go, and they didn't go out there and look like amateur hour. They went out and played football, executed well, not perfectly, but well, and, got a game under their belts. And this is what I said going into this game, Coulter. This is the one luxury of this game is this is the only game for Montana State which they will not have had, or they did not have, any pressure on them. Whether they felt pressure or whatever is a different story. Certainly nerves in first games and all that. But from the outside, everybody goes, yeah, 45-10. Okay. If you watch the game, fine. Now let's see what happens. Now let's see what Montana State looks like. And this is the one where, if you're a Bobcat fan, it's the one you got to be excited for and up for and nervous about, frankly, because this is a big football game. It's not a make or break deal. This is not, a season in the balance type of game, but this is one of the best, for as perceptively soft as their Big Sky Conference schedule is initially for the first 3 quarters of it. Their non-conference schedule is a bear for the Montana State. It is a very, very tough schedule, but now it goes from no expectations to expectations, to prove it to me, to if you're the team that everybody thinks that you might be, the build that Jeff Choate has been on, to this season where it's time to deliver. It starts now, this week for Montana State, and we're going, like he said, it shows you where you are. Yes, it's going to reveal a lot about where Montana State is here this second week of football.
I'm just so interested to see what the Cats' defense looks like in this game, because the Cats' defense they held their own against Texas Tech, but they did not look dominant. But you didn't expect them to look dominant. But I do expect them to be physically dominant when they play FCS teams, just because of the personnel that they have. I mean, they have just multiple guys that are just physically more gifted than almost anybody in the entire league, maybe in the entire country. I mean, there's not a lot of guys playing off the edge that look like Bryce Sterk, that can run like Bryce Sterk. There's just not a lot of guys that can move like Jacquay Allen that are playing in the FCS. They're just not. I'm so interested to see how big of a jump it looks like when they play a like opponent. The other thing that's interesting is Big Sky fans are familiar with Missouri Valley teams. They're familiar with Southland teams. So those are often the matchups that the Big Sky gets in the playoffs. Not very familiar with Ohio Valley teams. But Southeast Missouri, identity-wise, the way that they were a year ago, was very much like Montana State. This was a playoff team a year ago that won a playoff game. They lost to Weber in the playoffs, but they went toe-to-toe with Weber. They slugged it out with Weber, and they're a team that's mean. I mean, I've watched them. I've only watched them 3 times, so I can't definitively say, but just from my impressions of the 3 times I did watch them, twice in the playoffs and a little bit from their game from Southern Illinois this last week, they're a team that is mean, that's in your face, that some people think potentially dirty. And I'm so interested to see how that matches up with Montana State, because Montana State wants to be mean and wants to play with a chip, and they want to play hard and fast and aggressive. If it could just be 2 like opponents playing against each other. I think that's going to be an interesting factor. It's going to be a slugfest in Bozeman, I expect. And it's a huge game. I mean, Jeff Choate was definitely he was cautiously optimistic in his press conference. You could tell that there was some tension, that he knows how big of a game it is, and I think that means his players will know how big of a game it is on Saturday in Bozeman as well.
Well, they Southeast Missouri 1-0, but Bozeman, the home opener, the Gold Rush game, a night game. These 2 teams, Montana and Montana State, going to be playing. Montana State kicks off at 6. Is that right?
I think they're both at 7.
Are they both at 7? They're both
so.
at the same time? Okay. We'll check on that. But in any case, playing at effectively 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock for Montana State. So they'll kick off 1 hour before.
Okay.
But a couple of night games, a couple of home openers for both the Cats and the Grizz. And it's going to be a fun night on Saturday across the state of Montana, but an important one really for both teams. North Alabama, better than people think, too. We'll talk about that as well. It's Montana Football Hour. It's presented by Lithia Ford. It's in the books, but you know what? We're going to keep talking Montana football, Montana State football. Look around the Big Sky Conference and hear about Dave Matthews. Why? Because Colton did it all this weekend. Greatest weekend ever. Hey, the Silver Slipper. Just told you about it. You got to trust me on this, okay? This is where you want to be. Grizz football Saturdays. They got shuttles to and from the games for free all the way from the south end of the city. They're right there across from the Super Walmart on Brooks, Highway 93, headed down towards the Bid Route if you're coming up from the valley, maybe from the South Hill. Maybe it's just easier for you. You don't have to fight to find parking. You're right there next to the Country Club in Missoula. You go down there, you watch games, you hang out for the afternoon, then you get on their free shuttle and go to the Grizz game. Don't worry about driving. Don't worry about parking. Don't worry about any of it. Let them take care of you. In the Silver Slipper, 56 televisions. That's a lot, people. Plenty of little nooks and crannies to hang out in. They got a pizzeria It's called Tarantino's. It pops out good pizzas. I'm telling you. I've been there. I know this. I know the good pizzas. You can get it at the Silver Slipper. Trust me on the pizza front, okay? People, just do that for me, okay? They got a full liquor store in there, drink specials every single day. Hit up the Silver Slipper. It's Missoula's favorite sports bar and casino. Again, just on the south end of the city, headed out of town on Brooks across from Walmart. And on game day, no better place. Get yourself a free shuttle safely to and from the Grizz games. Don't battle parking, hang out, have fun, and enjoy it all the way through with the Silver Slipper.
It's a rite of passage, that first bank account. Explore the great options for your young adult with a visit to Farmer State Bank, online at farmersebank.com or in person at any of our 9 locations in western Montana. Our checking and savings accounts are designed to fit any lifestyle and budget, with the flexibility, innovations, and security today's consumers demand. Start out right with Farmer State Bank, your Montana bank since 1907. Member FDIC.
Hey folks, Ryan Tutel here, and I'm with Josh from the Advocates Injury Attorneys. Josh, if our listeners have been injured in an accident, how can you help?
We're here to help you after a car accident by negotiating with insurance companies, recovering lost wages if you have any, and even getting you into a rental car if you need one. Call us today for a free consultation, and we'll get started helping you right away.
If you need help, get a hold of the Advocates. Call Josh at 640-4444 or online at montanaadvocates.com. You deserve an advocate.
During International Suicide Prevention Week, September 8th through 15th, River Pines Horse Sanctuary invites the public to Horses for Hope, emotional strength training as a suicide prevention strategy, a well-being journey through the way of the horse. This workshop is an opportunity to learn important suicide prevention concepts through horse grooming, an activity that is known to boost oxytocin levels in the brain, lowering blood pressure, and fostering social connection responses. A limited number of appointments are available. Call 406-304-6433 to schedule yours today.
School buses are taking to the roads, and they mean something very important. That is, bus drivers, educators, and parents doing their part to get children to and from school safely. Montana motorists share the responsibility to Montana's kids. Be aware this school year, you are sharing the road with our future. Flashing yellow lights alert drivers that the bus is preparing to stop. Flashing red lights means stop. Children are getting on or off the bus. Watch the lights and obey the signals to help keep our community safe for kids. This school safety reminder was brought to you by the Montana School Bus Contractors Association and this station.
Casey here from the Mud Project, inviting you to our annual garden party Saturday, September 7th. You don't want to miss Mud's biggest event of the year with food, live music, and dancing. Close out summer celebrating and supporting the community behind Missoula's sustainability efforts. Connect with other Mud members and learn what the folks at Mud have been up to. Saturday, September 7th, 6 to 10 at the Mud Project site on Wyoming Street. For details and tickets, go to mudproject.org. And don't forget to wear your dancing shoes.
Have you been hurt or disabled? Are you missing time from work and not sure what to do? I'm attorney Chris Helmer, and Clark Fork Law Offices in Missoula is here to help. Our team specializes in worker compensation, personal injury, and Social Security disability. We fight for the benefits you deserve. Call Clark Fork Law at 728-0168 for a free consultation or visit clarkforklaw.com. Again, 728-0168.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana. KKVU HD3 Stevensville and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon. Ryan Tutel, Colton Nuanez, ESPN Sports Center. Once the Montana Grizzlies solved South Dakota's unorthodox defense, the Grizz passing game diced the Yotes on Saturday. It took Montana nearly 22 minutes to score, but Dalton Snead's 16-yard touchdown to Samari Torrey opened the floodgates, leading to scores on 5 straight possessions as the Grizz open up the 2019 season with a 31-17 win on the road. Snead threw for a career-high 430 yards and 3 touchdowns, adding another rushing touchdown. Torrey and Sammy Akem each caught 9 passes and had a total of 300 yards combined through the air receiving. The Grizz open up their home schedule Saturday night in Missoula against North Alabama.
The Montana State Bobcats had an impossible time hanging with Texas Tech's tempo in the temperate heat of Lubbock on Saturday. On an afternoon in which temperatures reached triple digits, Texas Tech ran 95 plays to the tune of 691 total yards, including 436 yards passing by Tech quarterback Alan Bowman. The hosts notched 35 first downs to MSU's 8. MSU redshirt freshman Casey Bauman completed 7 of 19 passes for 120 yards. and a 31-yard touchdown to Coy Steele. MSU opens up its home schedule Saturday night in Bozeman against number 12, Southeast Missouri State.
The Missoula Osprey kept their playoff hopes alive with a 7-1 win over the Idaho Falls Chuckers last night. Missoula plays one more in Idaho Falls tonight before a 4-game set at first place Billings. The Mustangs lead Missoula by 1.5 games.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Aspen Sound.
Oh, man, we love it Post Malone today, huh? Why not? You know what I'm loving? Football season. It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris, 2904 West Broadway, Missoula Highway 83. In Sealy and online at KurtzPolaris.com. It's okay. There's, new guys in the back that figure out the music thing. You don't even care about how mean I am. It's one that you're impervious to it. It's wonderful. You didn't even hear it. We're broadcasting live.
I'm just trying to not pass out.
On a Tuesday afternoon. It is hot in here.
It is hot. So hot.
Yeah. Maybe you should take your shirt off.
I mean,
we are statewide on SWX Television. Colton Nuanez, skinned up. If you missed anything in the first hour, the Montana Football Hour, as we do in the first hour of every week, usually it's Monday this week because of Labor Day. It's today, Tuesday. Check it out on the podcast. Podcast available on the TuneIn Radio app, iTunes, Spotify, all of your favorite podcasting platforms. I downloaded music on iTunes last night, so as far as I can tell, it is still a thing. Just a quick iTunes update. If you want to call, 329-1899, the phone number, 329-1899. All guests join us via the Rankish Brothers RV phone line. We're going to get around the Big Sky, see what else happened in the Big Sky Conference this week. But we got more pressing things than that. Colton Nuanez drove out of the city on Friday morning, was not even here on Friday evening. Why? Because he was at the Gorge Friday for Dave Matthews Band. He was at the Gorge Saturday for Dave Matthews Band. He was in George, Washington, notably not the Gorge, George, at the public library watching the Montana Grizzlies and Montana State Bobcats open their football season. Like a very dedicated employee or boss.
Something.
Or guy who just likes it, So, first of all, Coulter, Dave Matthews, they're your guys. You did go see Dave last year, but just for one night. Tonight, this time, instead of doing, you still could go to all three, but you got 2 out of the 3, and early returns strong for DMB at the Gorge.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it was Friday night was the greatest performance I've ever seen of any sort, athletics, theater, anything. And I'm a guy that goes to shows all the time.
What about when I did my one-legged jumping jacks in the living room? Better?
Nothing has ever compared to it. It was a complete emotional.
Did you cry?
Oh, absolutely.
Really? Colton Nuanez in tears.
So good, man.
Oh, this makes me so happy.
It's hard to even.
Never seen you cry at a football game.
It's hard to even comprehend just how good they are, man.
I've seen you cry after a couple press conferences.
Yeah, just the authenticity of the energy that Dave Matthews Band performs with is second to none. But then the way that they string their songs together to just make it this endless night of music. I mean, it was 23 songs long the first night. I mean, by the end,
you sent me the playlist. That's a lot of music.
I mean, they played if you were to name my 10 favorite Dave Matthews songs, they played 8 of them. So, that was just epic. And Saturday night was great. But I was in the pit on Saturday night and, pretty broad. So there's a lot of jostling around and not a lot of personal space.
You didn't crowd surf? You didn't have them hoist up your 270 and float you up front?
Nope. But it was a great weekend, and I was so mad on Saturday because I couldn't get any service in the campground because you got 30,000 people there. Everybody's got
for sure.
They're hooked up to the LTE. There's no streaming, so. And I was so hot anyways. I said, you got to take me to the river. So we went to the Columbia River, jumped in, and then went to the library, and that was great.
This is what I was going to say because, people, I don't want to give you ever too much credit, And my thought is, going to the library, if you're there for an evening, it's a late night out with Dave on the Friday, and it's going to be a late night on the Saturday. That Saturday morning and day, especially when that heat starts getting to you, you're out there in the middle of central Washington, it's beaten down. All there is weeds and nuclear power plants as far as the eye can see. And you got to get out of that. And if you're stuck in the campground the whole day, your Saturday evening may not go that well.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, go get in the river for one. But then, hey, let's head to the public library, open up the laptop, sit down in a proper chair, not in a, some fold-up thing that's not ergonomically correct. We both care about our backs very much. And you sit there and you go ahead, let's watch some college football. I mean, that's pretty good.
No doubt. It was good. It was a great break. And
what'd you eat? Did you take food with you to the library? Can you eat in the library?
Well, I ate a little taco truck.
Oh,
this is a good story.
Oh,
this is actually a good story. My buddy Justin, he thinks he's pretty hardcore. So he walks up to the taco truck, and it's
5-star. You getting the 5-star?
It was great Mexican food. But he says to the Hispanic kid working, he said, bro, I want one chicken taco, but I want it as hot as you can make it. Make it as spicy as you can.
Just grinning from ear to ear, the kid working at the truck, right?
So,
he's like, yeah.
So then I order after him, and he goes, is he serious? And I said, he's serious, man. I said, hurt him. And so they're making, these 3 kids, they're all like 17. They're making this ghost pepper chili paste to put on the taco. And so then he gets his food way before me. So then when I go up to get my food, the kid's like, hey, you got to make sure he's okay. We can't have like a lawsuit. And I was like, how hot is it? He lets me try it with a chip. Just incinerates my tongue. Ruins every taste bud in my mouth.
I was going to say, well, you got to wait till after, man. If you're going to have great food, you can't kill your tongue until after the fact.
So Justin not only eats this whole taco with all the sauce on it, but then there's sauce left. He goes to return the bowl, and he eats the last 2 scoops for the kids. And these kids just think this is the funniest thing ever.
He got to be red-faced.
Oh, he's trying to act tough, but he's sweating.
Yeah.
He's like, bro, I eat spice all the time. I'm always hurting myself. I'm like, you can be really hurting tomorrow night, buddy.
My goodness. Well, good, man. I'm glad you got something nice and you enjoyed the games, and then you gave us a great report. And guess what? They weren't the only 2 games on Saturday in the Big Sky Conference. There were 8 others, as a matter of fact. Now, do I have this right? So Sacramento State plays at Arizona State this Friday.
Yep.
But Sacramento State was the one Big Sky team that did not open this weekend.
No, Idaho State didn't.
Idaho State did.
Sac State played Southern Oregon and laid 77 on them.
Okay, well, that was I guess that's a strong performance.
My Sac State got cut off on the end of this weekend. I'm sorry. 77-19 Sac State.
Okay, so Idaho State's the one team that did not play this weekend.
Correct.
They'll be back. But let's take a whip around the Big Sky. Now, again, Northern Arizona beating Missouri State 27-23. It wasn't that close, was it? Was it 27-23?
Oh, it's 37-23.
Yeah, 37-23. That's right. So that was on Thursday in that first ball game of the year. And then Cal Poly playing San Diego. USD got a win, triple option, getting the win over San Diego 52-34. This is the one that I'm interested in. San Diego State, Weber State, SDSU, the Aztecs, 6-0. Was it 19-10? We're playing football at 6-0, but there you go. The Aztecs barely able to get on the board, but Weber State not able to get on the board in a defensive struggle. But a very good game, a 1-score game at the end of it all. And Weber State, defensively, they are the hammer, and they're proving it here against, it's always been a prolific run team and a very good SDSU team.
There's so many different ways to approach these FBS games, but to go into a game with the confidence to get into a slugfest with an FBS team it's honestly unparalleled. Who thinks that? Whose game plan is to go in and go blow for blow with a team that has 22 more scholarships? It seems foolish, but Weber State did it. They only allowed 14 first downs. They only allowed 238 total yards. And if it wasn't for a holding penalty on a kick return for a touchdown, Rashid Shaheed scored a 99-yard touchdown. Then he got called back for holding. If it wasn't for that, they win that game. To allow no touchdowns, 2 field goals, that's it. It's incredibly impressive.
Another team that was very impressive was Portland State, going down to SEC Sweet Arkansas. And they lose 2013. Portland State does. Portland State had the football with a minute to go, down 7, completed a just miraculous 4th and 12 up the sideline, and they are in the red zone of Arkansas. Throw to the end zone, picked off, game over. Portland State's starting quarterback injured in this football game, so they're trying to do this with a backup. But we are admirers of Portland State as far as the coaches go, and as the program as a whole being there. And Barney, always the greatest soundbite you ever could have, and he's sitting there with his sweat towel around his shoulders on the sideline, thinking that he might be able to pull the big one. And he's a guy who's pulled some FBS upsets, some Power 5 upsets before.
Yep.
It's different going to Arkansas, for crying out loud, of the SEC. Gave it a run, but Portland State a very, very good performance overall. And holding Arkansas to 20, outstanding, certainly defensively.
Yeah, they had Arkansas really guessing a lot of the game. I watched a lot of it back, and that flex defense that Portland State runs, you had Arkansas confused. They had no rhythm. And the key position in that defense is the rover spot. And they run their rover a little bit different than most of the traditional rovers. Or traditional rover is a lot like kind of the third safety or the extra outside linebacker. Mm-hmm. There are guys everywhere. He's playing center field. He's playing in the box. He's playing Mike sometimes. But Romeo Gunt had an absolutely outstanding game. He had 16 tackles. He's the Big Sky Conference Defensive Player of the Week for his effort. But I think it's indicative of just the mentality Bruce Barnum's teams play with. The fact that you mentioned they beat a ranked Washington State team in Bruce Barnum's first ever game in 2015.
Yep.
They wanted to beat North Texas later on that year. Killed them, beat them by 50.
North Texas, an unranked FBS team.
Dan McCarney fired in the locker room after the game. It was such a beatdown.
Not great.
But they've been competitive in a lot of different FBS games, and I think it's a credit to the way that Bruce Barnum gets his teams ready.
The other game that was, I think, a real highlight, frankly, for the Big Sky Conference was UC Davis at Cal. And UC Davis gets Cal to fumble the opening kickoff and turn around and stick that thing in there. Davis up 10-0 at one point in this game. And I watched this football game, Coulter. They were everything for Cal in this one. And 27-13, ultimately a couple of scores late in this game for Cal opened this thing up. But this was kind of punch for punch in both directions. I thought that in the main, UC Davis was outstanding in this game and held the lead for a good portion of it. Was it 10? It was 10-10 at half, or maybe 13.
Yeah, but it was 10-0 at one point. UC Davis was up 10-0.
I know, but at halftime it was still either a tie game or maybe a 3-point game. And Jake Mayer was phenomenal. Jake Mayer is not a great thrower of the football. He's adequate, but he's not. He's only, to me, okay throwing the football. But he is brilliant, and he moves the chess pieces around, and you can see the intelligence that his teammates and that coaching staff have in terms of putting a very complex scheme into play on the football field. And there's just not a lot of teams that can match that. And then when guys are open, you don't have to be the greatest thrower of the football to get it to him. And he, by the way, this is not him being a bad thrower. It's just not. There's other guys that can whip it better than Jake Mayer can, but nobody can set it up better than he can. And they went out with all the confidence in the world that they were going to be the better offensive team. And even with Bo Baldwin being the offensive coordinator, and Justin Wilcox, a great defensive guy, being the head coach at Cal, they took it to Cal for a good portion of this game. Ultimately, Cal did come back, and they had the horses to win it, but very well done by UC Davis in this one overall.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that the Big Sky performed well in all their FBS matchups, with the exception of probably two and a half games. I mean, the UNLV Southern Utah game, the 56-23 final, is a little bit deceiving because UNLV was up 56-7 before Southern Utah scored 16 points in the fourth quarter. So they kind of called off the dogs. So that was a little bit deceiving. So Southern Utah got routed pretty good. I also thought Washington
looked pretty good.
I mean, there's a Ewing theory, right? The Patrick Ewing theory. You lose the guy who you built your entire franchise around, and then you're better than you've ever been the year after, just like the Knicks. Patrick Ewing retires, and then the Knicks go to the finals the next year. Bill Simmons always talks about the Ewing theory. It's a little bit of an extrapolation dependent on Washington, but I thought that Jake Browning, when he suffered that shoulder injury at Washington, he just was never the same. Mm-hmm. He didn't play with the same confidence. He didn't throw the ball at the same zip. And they just weren't as diverse on offense, even though they had to roll with him because he was the heart and soul of their team and their 4-year starter at quarterback. you're not going to bench that guy. But he just couldn't really throw the ball by the end of his career. He just was very average as a quarterback.
But Jacob Eason.
They took a real jump with Eason. Eason's a much more talented thrower of the football.
But here's the other thing, too. You know what's so underrated about Washington is their speed at the skill positions. I mean,
their speed, period. They're so fast on defense,
fast
too.
everywhere. And, like, you talk about Dante Pettis. I mean, people think, okay, he could be, potentially a nice kind of breakout player for San Francisco. But him in college, unstoppable. I understand what John Ross has not been at all in the NFL, okay? John Ross ran a 4.22, people, and before he, whatever happened to his hamstring and everything else, was the surest thing in college football, that it was going to the crib when he got it in his hands, headed up there in the Pacific Northwest. And they got more guys like that all over the field, and you pair Jacob Eason with that, and they're in business. So 47-14, I think a lot of people thought Eastern Washington might do better than that. Against UW. I think this was I don't think nationally people will appreciate this, because nationally nobody knows what Eastern Washington is and what the FCS is in general. This was an outstanding, dominant win against a very good football team for the University of Washington. I think they looked really good. The one team that really did hang with their team, though, was Idaho.
God, just absolute bloodbath.
There was a 79-7.
There's a Penn State guy that was quoted saying, "I was a little bit tired at the end of the game because I had to cover so many kicks." He said, "I had to run down on 16 kickoffs." It's like doing a whole set of extra wind sprints. And Penn State scored on, I believe, every possession of the game. I think they scored 9 touchdowns, and then I had another 2 field goals. I mean, it was.
Well, that's not enough. I mean, this is 10 touchdowns and 2 field goals might get you there.
There you go. Maybe 10 touchdowns and 3 field goals. Yep. I think they scored 13 times.
That's missing no extra points.
And then they had 2 other to begin the half kicks. So there you go, 15 kickoffs.
673 yards of total offense. I'm told this is only, though, the 4th most total points ever scored by Penn State, which has got to be disappointing.
Fourth thing is margin of victory as well. And it wasn't the worst margin of defeat by Idaho either. 2nd worst margin of defeat.
Look, man. Okay, it's Penn State. Okay, it's Happy Valley. But 79-7? How did Idaho score? I didn't even see that. How did they score?
They scored way late in the game. I mean, the thing is, man, if you would have told me that this was a 70-point spread, I would have taken Penn State. I'm serious, and they covered. I really, when I saw this game on the schedule, I really thought in my head, this is going to be 80-8.
Here's the thing. The players at Idaho right now, just it does not matter. Like, you can sit there and look, okay, well, this guy came from here, this guy's a pretty good player, this, that, and the other. None of that matters. The only thing that matters is that Idaho athletics, period, is a dumpster fire, and that this football team was in the FBS, and now they are not, and no one that's on the football team cares about football anymore. Does not care.
Yeah,
I don't know how they win a football game.
It's going to be a long year. It's going to be a long year. They do have a couple guys that are superiorly talented than almost anybody. I was talking about how Bryce Cirk looks like nobody else in the Big Sky Conference. That's not true. There's one guy that looks like him. Luther Ellis' youngest kid.
They have dudes who are dude-ish in the way that they can be and could be, but as a team, no. It's over. I mean, it's over.
Luther Ellis, who was the Pro Bowl defensive lineman for the Detroit Lions, he's their defensive line coach. Caden Ellis was Idaho's best player last year. Now he just made the New Orleans Saints as an edge guy. But Luther Ellis' youngest son was the number 2 defensive tackle recruit in the country. Spent 2 years at Mississippi State. Now he decided to come play his last couple years for his dad with his other brother. But this kid's 6'5", 347 pounds, looks a lot like his old man. That guy is going to be a force in the Big Sky Conference. But as long as Paul Petrino is set on playing his 5'10", can't throw the ball son at quarterback, it's just not going to happen for Idaho.
It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. There's been a look around the Big Sky Conference brought to us by SkylineSportsMT.com. Go there, check it out, read the things.
Great story by Gus Tutel last week.
Do another one here in about 9 months. Quick break, and we'll come back and we'll get into some high school stuff. First week of high school football also around the state of Montana, so we'll catch that right after this. Want to remind you, go to Facebook, caption the picture that's there. You got tickets to the Grizzly North Alabama game this Saturday. We're giving away on our Facebook page at 1029 ESPN. Back with high school scores next.
From 3 to 5:30. Stop in on Friday for Montini Night. Sip on a top-shelf martini for only $6, 5:30 to close. When you've worked hard all day and are ready to relax, the Montana Club has got you covered with BOGO Happy Hour 7 days a week, 3 to 5:30 on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
No matter how far you may go, there's always one just down the road. Town Pump. Ooh, pump it up. Pump it up.
Hungry? Visit the Town Pump Deli. Big Dog wraps are only $3.49. While you're there, you can pick up a 24-pack of Pabst or Rainier for only $17.99. Town Pump. They've got just what you need.
Town Pump. Right down the road. Pump it up. Oh, yeah.
More than 60 years ago, R.J. Rangich opened up Rangich Brothers with one thing in mind: quality and family tradition. Those family traditions continue today and live through our family, staff, and those who buy our RVs. So whether your travels include the shores of Flathead, Glacier Peaks, Yellowstone geysers, or the hidden gems in between, jump into Jayco and experience the best freedom you and your family will ever know. Only where a handshake means something. Rangich Brothers RV Center.
During International Suicide Prevention Week, September 8th through 15th, River Pines Horse Sanctuary invites the public to Horses for Hope, emotional strength training as a suicide prevention strategy, a well-being journey through the way of the horse. This workshop is an opportunity to learn important suicide prevention concepts through horse grooming, an activity that is known to boost oxytocin levels in the brain, lowering blood pressure, and fostering social connection responses. A limited number of appointments are available. Call 406-304-6433 to schedule yours today.
School buses are taking to the roads, and they mean something very important. That is, bus drivers, educators, and parents doing their part to get children to and from school safely. Montana motorists share the responsibility to Montana's kids. Be aware this school year, you are sharing the road with our future. Flashing yellow lights alert drivers that the bus is preparing to stop. Flashing red lights means stop. Children are getting on or off the bus. Watch the lights and obey the signals to help keep our community safe for kids. This school safety reminder was brought to you by the Montana School Bus Contractors Association and this station.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon. Ryan Tetel, Colton Nuanez, 1029 ESPN Sports Center. Once the Montana Grizzlies solved South Dakota's unorthodox defense, the Grizz passing game diced the Yotes Saturday. It took Montana 22 minutes to score. And then Dalton Snead's 16-yard touchdown pass to Samari Torrey opened the floodgates, leading to scores on 5 straight possessions as the Grizz opened the 2019 season with a 31-17 win on the road. Snead threw for a career-high 430 yards and 3 touchdowns, adding another rushing touchdown. Torrey and Sammy Akim each caught 9 passes and a score on a banner day for the UM offense. The Grizz opened their home schedule Saturday night in Missoula against North Alabama.
The Montana State Bobcats had an impossible time hanging with Texas Tech's tempo in the temperate heat of Lubbock on Saturday. On an afternoon in which temperatures reached triple digits, Texas Tech ran 95 plays to the tune of 691 total yards, including 436 passing by Tech quarterback Alan Bowman. The hosts notched 35 first downs to MSU's 8. Bobcat redshirt freshman Casey Bauman completed 7 of 19 passes for 120 yards and a 31-yard touchdown to Coy Steele in his debut. MSU opens its home schedule Saturday night in Bozeman against number 12 Southeast Missouri State.
And finally, the Missoula Osprey kept their playoff hopes alive with a 7-1 win over Idaho Falls last night. They finish Idaho Falls tonight and then 4 more in Billings for first place.
Now they always say congratulations. Work so hard, forgot how to
The Osprey are down a game and a half to the Mustangs They got one game tonight at Idaho Falls and then 4 more in Billings. And that series will determine your second half winner and therefore who's going to the playoffs, either Billings or Missoula, who has clawed back into this. They were down as many as 5 games at one point not too long ago. They're coming back strong. It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com. If you would like to listen live, perhaps you're out of the market. Maybe you're in the market, but it's easier on a phone now. That's fine. Listen on the website, 1029ESPN.com. Check out the stream. The stream is available there thanks to Opportunity Bank, your local bank, your opportunity. You're listening to everything on the phone. Remember, Coulter, do you remember this, when people used to carry around camcorders? Like originally, like shoulder mount camcorders so you could film your kids' birthday parties, and then later on, like these things are out there. It's just like, talk about going the way of the buffalo in a hurry, the handheld video recorder to it, like a mini tape.
The fact that voyeurism is almost instinctual amongst humans is one of the most fascinating things in the world to me. Like, who is not obsessed with watching videos of themselves, looking at pictures, not of just yourself, of each other?
Yeah.
I mean,
just watching.
We're obsessed with the reflection of ourselves and of other people. We're obsessed with watching each other. I mean, Facebook's like the biggest entity that ever existed purely from looking at pictures of other people. It's crazy.
I don't think it's that crazy.
It is crazy, though, because when you think back to, like, the camcorders, like, our dads were, like, non-tech guys, and they still had the camcorder out all the time. Like, we have dozens of videotapes at our house of us when we were little kids.
Save the memories. All right. It is now time for our youth sports segment. It is presented by Pepsi. And, Coulter, the first weekend, Friday of high school football in the state of Montana went on, and we got some scores to report for you. So go ahead, tell the people some stuff that went on here.
Maybe a couple highlights. There's all sorts of games, and it was a great weekend to kick off high school football. I believe that Hellgate had a bye, because I can find AA scores for every other AA squad in the state, but not Missoula Hellgate. So I believe Hellgate had a bye. If they did not, we will find a score for you as soon as possible. But Sentinel got a big win over Great Falls High, 26-15. Jackson Lee had a punt return for a touchdown, so he had a great debut after transferring over from Flint Creek. And then Missoula Big Sky, they had their hands more than full with Billings West, and Billings West routed them in Missoula 41-6. So a split for the Missoula AA teams right out the gates. Other scores from around the western Montana area. Carson Rossat, as advertised, he gets his senior year kicked off in style. 396 yards passing, 6 passing touchdowns in a 49-26 win over Butte Central. So 6 TDs on the board your first game out.
Good.
Defending reigning Gatorade Player of the Year and committed to the Montana Grizzlies. So Carson Rostad, as advertised early on. Missoula Loyola got a big win over Huntley Project at Bobcat Stadium. So they've played that game the last couple years at Bobcat Stadium to open up the season. And Loyola gets a 25-20 win. So that was a good performance there by the Rams. Tommy Malott from Butte High, he had probably the other AA game of the week. Montana State commit, he threw for 332 yards and 5 touchdowns to lead Butte High to a big win over Belgrade in their first ever Class AA game. Reminder that Belgrade's playing a Class AA schedule in football this year. So Tommy Malott, Montana State commit, he had a big game. Frenchtown's Jace Kluswich, who's a name that is going to climb on everybody's radar sooner than later. Jace Kluswich is, he reminds me a little bit of Gabe Sulzer. He reminds me a little bit of Robbie Houck. I think he's kind of a combo of those two guys. He's not tall, but he's fast. He's explosive. He's really, really, really tough. I think he's probably a safety at the D1 level, but he's a guy that got invited to Ohio State and Marshall camps this summer. He's already getting recruited by both the Cats and the Grizz, but he had 4 touchdowns in Frenchtown's season opening win, so a good start to his junior year for him. And then probably the most impactful result was Flint Creek lost. Flint Creek came in with the longest winning streak in the state, 25-game winning streak. They are the 2-time reigning Class C champions, and they lost 74-42 to the Alberton Superior Co-op. That's a lot of points by Alberton, but you could definitely say that Flint Creek's missing their main guy, Jackson Lee.
It is remarkable the impact that one player can have, particularly at the Class C level.
Well, especially a guy that had 13 interceptions last year.
Yeah. And I drove by this game on my way out of town on Friday night and stopped in Superior, took a quick look, ran into Derek Berkeley, who was there covering the game, and he goes, well, didn't see that coming. I said, no, sir. How about that? So a surprising opener, maybe. I mean, in a lot of ways, I mean, maybe it isn't that surprising. Again, with Jackson Lee being in, with the Sentinel Spartans, and they, getting a win there to open the season.
Hellgate did, in fact, have a bye, so they'll open up their season against Skyview, who they beat last year on Friday night here in Missoula. So, good luck to the Knights, but good results from around Western Montana to get high school football season underway.
Very good. So our youth sports segment presented by Pepsi. Quick break. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the show. Probably talk about some football.
Alpine Touch has been part of the fabric of Montana for more than 60 years. Decades ago, Russell Street started selling his touch of magic in whitefish. Years later, Alpine Touch's all-purpose seasoning remains a favorite. It's tailgating season, and there's no better way to spice up your grill before a Grizz game than with Alpine Touch. Go to alpinetouch.com now and use the checkout code ESPN10 for a 10% discount on your order. Alpine Touch is here to keep your mouth watering all football season. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice. Mark your calendar for the 4th annual Selway Armory tent sale. The lowest prices of the year on guns, ammunition, and accessories, and massive amounts of ammo to stock up for the entire year. September 13th and 14th in the Lolo Shopping Center parking lot on Highway 93. Tons of ammo, guns, and other items at below-cost blowout prices. September 13th and 14th, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Friday and 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Saturday. The 4th annual Selway Armory tent sale at the Lolo Shopping Center, Highway 93.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today. 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
The big skies are open. Go wild with Opportunity Reward Checking. Go ahead, jump, dance, shout. Opportunity Reward Checking will make you do that. Go wild when you get your 1% cash back on qualified debit card purchases. It all starts with an Opportunity Reward Checking account from Opportunity Bank. Visit a branch today to get started. Then go wild and spend your 1% cash back however you want. Go wild with reward checking from Opportunity Bank. Some restrictions may apply. Member FDIC.
Kids are starting a new school year, and they have a lot to learn. But before they get to school, teach your children how to get to and from school safely on the school bus. Remind them to watch out for cars on the road as they leave the bus. Montana motorists share the responsibility to Montana's kids. Be aware this school year, you are sharing the road with our future. Watch the lights and obey the signals to help keep our community safe for kids. This school safety reminder was brought to you by the Montana School Bus Contractors Association and this station.
This is Tom Skerritt for the Borgen Project. Each year, nearly 2 million children die from preventable diseases. Each day, 30,000 people die from hunger. 500 each hour are children. The Borgen Project is turning this around. We need your help. To learn more, go to BorgenProject.org. That's BORGEN project.org.
Tutel and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula.
Day one, back on the show in the heart of football season. And Coulter and I are going to spend the next 10 minutes going player by player through our fantasy team rosters. It's Tutel and Nuanez. No. I'm just, come on now.
Rule number 1, don't talk about your fantasy team.
We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris is at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com.
Rule number 2, I'm sorry, stick to the clock.
I mean, look at it.
Yeah, it's completely messed up, upside down.
We are right on time.
I leave you unsupervised, you guys, for one show. We're back after a 3-day weekend, and you're already just completely destroying the program.
You know, you're using precious seconds that could have been spent doing reads. Did I say we're broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios?
I don't know. I don't ever remember the show until
We're in the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris, 2904 West Broadway, Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy. 1029 ESPN.com is where you can find our website. If you go there, you can listen to the live stream of the show, or you can listen to the podcast. The podcast is also available on a whole bunch of other podcasting platforms, namely all of them. So go check out the Two Tell Nuanez podcast. The podcast available thanks to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. Coulter, we talked a lot about Montana State football through the first, hour and change of this show. And more specifically about the games that they have just come out of in week one. And we will get to the forward-looking stuff starting tomorrow. But I want to ask you two questions for both teams. What is the number one thing that you think they need to improve, each of these teams? And what was the number one thing that you thought impressed you about both of these teams from their first game, Montana State in a 45-10 loss at Texas Tech, and Montana in a 31-17 win at South Dakota?
I thought the most impressive part of the Montana State game was the way Casey Bauman threw the ball with authority. He made a couple bad throws, but by and large, he threw the ball with actually more zip and more authority, more confidence than he did during their last scrimmage. He was trying to loft the ball, or something strange was happening during their final fall camp scrimmage, and I thought, man, if he's hesitant like that in games, he's going to throw a million picks. And I thought he made decisions and threw the ball with great zip, even if he was, less than 50% completion. So I think that's a positive sign, because he's obviously going against better athletes on the perimeter.
Well, and the key, too, is that at Montana State, the tide is going to rise and fall based on how well the quarterback plays, because presumably, basically everywhere else, you're good.
Totally. I think the thing that they need to improve more on is just making plays on the ball. I thought that their corners ran with Texas Tech's receivers, and they were in position to make plays. They just didn't actually knock the ball out, break up the pass, get the pick, mostly.
Yes.
And again, you're not going to be playing against guys like TJ Vasher.
Sure.
There's no guy like TJ Vasher in the FCS. TJ Vasher is going to be a top 50 or top 75 pick in the NFL draft. I mean, he's a 6'6" receiver who had half a dozen Power 5 offers to play basketball. There's not athletes like that in the FCS, really.
The one this is not a downside for the team as a whole. I don't have much to say negatively about Montana State out of this game, and I mean, other than they looked good to me relative to the team that they were playing and understanding the disparity that's there. I thought Troy Anderson, this is the first game I've ever seen Troy Anderson play where he didn't jump off to me. He ran the ball once, didn't have a ton of opportunities. He threw the ball twice, completed in both, but not for much. He had one target as a wide receiver. That went incomplete. And he made 4 tackles defensively. They did not use Troy Anderson the way they're going to use Troy Anderson, obviously. I thought, I was like, okay, well, thought maybe you give him a couple more looks.
I mean, I think that the underlying reality, too, is that no one's talked about it, and they've kept it the most tight-lipped ever. I mean, the Grizz don't talk about injuries. The Bobcats, Choate says he's not going to talk about injuries, but then when a guy is hurt that's going to be impactful to their performance, then he will bring it up. He won't answer questions about it, but if you let him bring it up, he will. The one guy he has never said anything about is Troy Anderson, and make no mistake, Troy Anderson. I mean, I'm not trying to speculate too much, but Troy Anderson did not participate in spring ball. And they said they were just trying to take reps off of him, but he was wearing a sling on his arm. And if you know anything about the way that they cuff guys that had labrum surgery, they wear cuffs on their bicep to keep your shoulder locked in. Troy Anderson's wearing a huge cuff. So, I mean, the process of deduction means that the guy had off-season shoulder surgery. I don't know specifically what that means, but they were certainly trying to keep reps off him, because the last thing you want to do is go to a Big 12 team and have Troy Anderson blow his shoulder and have him be out. I mean, that would be a nightmare for Montana State. So they were slow playing him, and I think that they wanted him to be healthy for right now, this week, and we'll see how they use him this week.
For Montana, the thing that you thought needed the most improvement was what?
I think it's just the cohesion of the offensive line. Not only do they not have necessarily the punch and pop that you would want from an elite unit, but it just seemed like they weren't. A lot of times you can mitigate individual weaknesses by operating as a unit.
Mm-hmm.
How do you look when you're running counter? How do you look when you're pulling? How do you come off the line in synchronicity? And I just thought that Montana was lacking that a little bit. And that's to be expected considering that they have a new starter at center, and Angel Villanueva is back in the starting lineup for the first time in 2 years. And they had a brand new first-time college starter in Tyler Ganong playing right guard. So you have multiple interior guys in different roles. And I think that's going to then trickle down to the inside run game. They all go hand in hand. And that's where Montana needs to make progress. I think, though, if they can if they can truly accept what their offensive strengths are, which they know, but I just think that they have to be all in on it. Mm-hmm. And if they are all in on it, if they're all in on letting Dalton Snead run pass option plays and letting him use his feet to get outside the pocket, and they let those receivers do work, I just think their offense has a chance to be absolutely dynamite.
And so maybe you already answered the question, but the thing that you took away is your biggest positive for Montana
was just how well Dalton Snead threw the ball. Dalton Snead was in and out of fall camp. There was multiple days where he did not throw. And there's a lot of speculation to him having maybe shoulder tendonitis. Bobby Hauck was asked about it. That's when he said, hey, no more questions about injuries, else this is not happening. There's no open practice anymore if you guys don't stop asking. So it left it a little bit mysterious, but Dalton Snead looked like he had no wear whatsoever. He threw the ball with great zip. I thought his decision-making was excellent. I thought his leadership was excellent. And he was really good last year, but to me, he went from really good and definitely a difference maker to an elite player. I really think that Dalton Snead thrust himself fully into the conversation as Offensive Player of the Year in the Big Sky. I know we haven't played any conference games yet, but he is right there with Eric Barrier and Jake Mayer.
The thing that I took away as a positive for Montana, and this is very, very broad, but I just thought defensively they were outstanding in basically every way. Physically, running to the ball like you talked about in the first hour, tackling, and imposing defensively. The exception to that was Cody Case, who I thought was just phenomenal for South Dakota. Again, 11 receptions, 144 yards, caught both the touchdowns that South Dakota scored in that game. And equally, I mean, credit to Austin Simmons. Simmons was 23-33 in the game. Did have the interception, and a great pick it was, by the way, by Justin Calhoun back there. I mean, looking like the wide receiver of a couple of years ago, going up and picking that thing off and coming down with it. But I thought up front they shut down the run game by and large, and I thought that they every time they made a tackle, whether it was at or behind the line of scrimmage, or whether it was 15 for a 15-yard gain and a first down for South Dakota, there was a price to be paid. There was a price to be paid for South Dakota just about every time a ball carrier had the ball and was taken to the ground. And it was a pounding that takes place over the course of time and was successful for Montana. And I thought that they were just very, very good on the whole defensively.
Yeah, and I think that Montana, they looked significantly improved from a year ago in a lot of the intangible elements of the game. The effort that they played with, the cohesion on defense that they played with. I thought I saw big-time cohesion between Dalton Snead and the receivers, and I saw big-time cohesion amongst the entire defense. If the offensive line can replicate that, if they can get on that same level of cohesion, now you're talking about a team that maybe can make a run in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. I think Montana's close. And I think if we know anything about what we've watched over the last 2-ish years, it's that they will improve. It's just a matter of continuing to do so.
Yeah, well, it's the win was a big one for Montana, and now that it's in the books, it's a look forward to North Alabama, who is a team that not a lot of people here know about, but you got to learn about because it's a very good football team. We're going to talk about them throughout the week, and then of course the Gold Rush game for Montana State against Southeast Missouri is a major game for the arc of the Bobcat season and to start to establish yourself on a national scale if you're the Montana State Bobcats. Want to remind everybody right now on our Facebook page, you want tickets to that North Alabama Grizzly home opener under the lights Saturday night? We got a pair of tickets for you. Go to our Facebook page, ESPN Missoula Facebook page, and caption the picture that is there. It's a photo of myself and a baby, and it's not even one of my children. Imagine that. Somebody was risky enough to let me sit and talk to a kiddo. Anyway, caption the photo, and the best caption we will tomorrow. We're giving these away tomorrow, so make sure you get it done in the next 24 hours, and then caption the photo, have a little fun, and maybe win some tickets to the Grizzly North Alabama football game Saturday night. We will be doing Wing It Wednesday, of course, tomorrow, and then want to remember Thursday. We are at the Iron Horse downtown, the Iron Horse on Higgins. Come hang out with us there and put your name in the box to win tickets to the Grizzly-Oregon football game. That on Thursday. We're going to give away another pair of tickets there to the Grizzly-Oregon football game Thursday from the Iron Horse, our second to the last stop of the Tutela Nuanez Summer Tour. So make sure you come on down and do that. Been a fun Tuesday show. First show of the week. Little DMB on the way out to get Coulter in a good mood from his fantastic weekend. And we will be back with you again tomorrow. Coulter, did they play this?
Oh, yeah. Closed it Saturday night.
Tough to do better than that. See you tomorrow. Tutela Nuanez, ESPN.
The week ends, the week begins. She thinks we look at each other, wondering what the other is thinking, but we never say.
Hi there, it's Les Schwab Tires. You know, we've been helping keep folks safe on the road around here since 1952. That's why you can save up to $152.
Iron Horse Beer Club has an ice cold just for you. Every Wednesday, slide on up to the bar and
Saturday at 9:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ESPN. Presented by...
That's White Claw and Wing Wednesday. Spicy hot wings and frosty cold White Claws. All day Wednesdays only at the bar at the Iron Horse Brew Pub on the corner of Higgins and Spruce, where there's always someone you know. That's White Claw and Wing Wednesday.
As summer nears the finish line, one more great party is in order, and that would be the 21st Annual Maverick Brewfest. Come celebrate this Friday in Karis Park from 4 until 10. Over 40 microbrews, including Montana specialties, plus wine tastes. The $10 admission includes a large souvenir beer glass and 2 drink tickets. $20 admission includes a large souvenir glass and 8 drink tickets. Enjoy live music with the Tomcats, plus food featuring Missoula's favorite vendors. Proceeds help support Missoula freestyle skiing and youth athletics in Missoula.
Sports radio for Darby, Hamilton, Stevensville, Corvallis, Victor, and Missoula. Western Montana plays here. 102.9 ESPN Radio.
Yeah, I got you. Can you hear me? Okay. So we're good for 7 o'clock. Yep. I have the satellite off for you, so you don't get the 2 feeds if it's coming to you. Okay.